Hey guys, and welcome back to the Natty scene. And this week, you'll get 2 episodes this week, but I'm also joined alongside Vicky later in the week. I'm joined by my good buddy and WNBF Pro, Dan Lampard, this week. So we're going to basically have a chat like I've had with other professional and amateur natural bodybuilders, running through Dan's career so far, what he's learnt and potentially sort of what he's done wrong in the past, because if people don't know Dan has had a pretty long natural bodybuilding career, and ultimately it came to definitely one of its best moments last year, winning his WNBF Pro card in Boston, which of course, if you followed my prep, you'll have known that we were out there together, and we both obviously came home with the first place trophies, which was awesome. And then Dan actually went on to win the overall as well in the amateur division, and obviously that granted his pro card alongside winning his class. So yeah, an awesome year in 2017 for Dan, and hopefully you guys will take something away from this episode as to what it takes to essentially go from, a teenage champion, which Dan was, to all the way, to winning his pro card, which is, for a lot of people is their goals nowadays. And I'm sure Dan knows, and everyone else knows, that it's definitely one of my goals. So Dan is definitely someone that I look up to myself as a natural bodybuilder, and hope to emulate what he's done in his career. So Dan, welcome to the podcast. It's nice to have you. If you could just give the listeners a little bit of an insight into who you are, essentially, like how old are you, what do you do for a living, kind of thing. Just like give them a little bit of a background on yourself, maybe a little bit outside of bodybuilding, so they know who you are.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the kind words, AJ. Appreciate that. It's been quite a long career. So just to guess a little bit about me, sort of now. So 30, just turned 38 years old, and been training and competing for just over 20.
Wow.
I've got 2 young kids, so a 7 and a 5-year-old, which we may hear running around at some point during this, but hopefully not. I've managed to tuck them away well enough. And then, outside of work, I'm finance director at a big, large online retail company.
Cool.
And have sort of worked in various sort of finance roles outside of sort of the bodybuilding side. So, a sort of professional career that at the time I've been competing, obviously sort of growing through that as well, which is probably some of the stuff that I'll touch on really, where particularly some of the sort of transferable things that I've got out of bodybuilding and how I've applied that into sort of my sort of, professional career as well, maybe of interest to some of the guys. Because there's a lot of transfer there. Yeah,
for sure. I remember us talking about that when we were in the Uber in Boston, talking about how how the rigors of a prep really does transfer into your work life, and it makes you realise that, okay, well, when I'm fully fed and I'm in an off season, I can actually put a lot of effort and sort of make my work day very strategic. And I'm sure as you've got these new over time, you've had more and more responsibilities with regards to a family and things like that. The strategic element of bodybuilding comes in more so because, time management is huge when you've got little ones, you've got your training, you've got a full-time job, makes being a youngster look easy.
Well, it's funny actually. It's something we can sort of touch on, that it's almost as I found, particularly probably as you sort of get older and wiser, but last year, obviously going through the prep, doing probably more shows than I think I've done in my entire competitive sort of career in the space of time that we did. I was finishing up doing a master's degree at the same time, as well as working, and actually, almost like you say, that discipline and that sort of ruthless sort of time management actually made the prep a lot easier, because you still have the time to think about, you're focused and everything else. But actually, just to say that sort of mindset and discipline of this is what you have to do, and having those really clear goals made a huge difference. And actually, some of the points probably early in my career where I had more time, pre-children, probably pre a sort of a much more less demanding job, actually, I ended up probably making some of the mistakes which we can sort of touch on around, overtraining, over, doing ridiculous amounts of cardio, becoming utterly obsessed with the prep side of things, and actually probably got some of the worst results of my career at the same sort of time, which was, it's quite interesting when you sort of reflect back, and like I say, I think that whole discipline and being a little bit sort of, wiser and getting that balance right is really, really important. But yeah, I can touch on some of those things actually, sort of reference to the different places I've had in my career.
Sure, absolutely. So Dan, when did it all start for you? When did the whole bodybuilding journey start, and what initially got you interested in the sport itself?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and completely by accident actually. So going back to probably when I was sort of 15 and a half years old, I moved schools, and I was a pretty decent rugby player, and played a lot of rugby union. And the school that I moved to, it was very sort of football focused. It didn't have that sort of team, so I went to look at joining a local club. Arranged to meet the coach there. Went to the sort of the place to meet him. He didn't turn up, and on the same site there was pretty much literally a little shed, the Health Matters gym. So I was like, all in my gear. So right, I'll go in here. Had my sort of first workout, and pretty much hooked overnight. And just loved it. It was a great little gym, and so started training there when I was like I say, sort of going into when I was sort of 16, and grew pretty quickly. And I was really fortunate that I got some really good advice from the owner around training, and was able to train. My sort of schedule matched one of the guys who was a teacher at the time. So when I was at school, just the times of when we'd go to the gym worked. Took me under his wing, and it was a little bit like, right, 4 sets of 10, 3 or 4 different exercise body part. But like when you first start training, you respond to pretty much anything. But at least I got those sort of almost those initial principles pretty well.
Yeah.
And so grew really quickly. It was almost like you felt like you were putting like a pound on every workout. You could see your squats going up, and it was just awesome. You just think back at that time and go, God, you just took for granted how easy it was to actually grow and put some serious sort of weights on.
What sort of physique did you have? Were you sort of a skinnier lad? Were you a sort of like medium size? Like,
probably the time I sort of trained, because I had the rugby background, I was always reasonably strong, and I used to do quite a lot of cycling, so my legs were always reasonably well developed.
I see.
And again, great advice that I got first. The first training session I did properly was legs. So I was under the squat bar within, days of actually
perfect.
starting. And that made such a difference. I think, you see sort of time and time again some of the younger lads, that sort of, getting that grounding right from the start made a big difference. So I was squatting, deadlifting right from the get-go. And again, by fortune, some of the guys at the gym, we had ex-British powerlifters who just happened to sort of come in. So just getting that technique, really initially made a huge difference, which was great.
Sure.
So I got to, late sort of 16 into sort of 17, and they looked at me and said, look, you should think about competing. I was like, no, this was totally alien as a concept to me. And I remember seeing some of the sort of magazines and looking at some of the guys that were bringing British titles at that time, and there was a picture that sort of stood out to me, and I didn't actually get the name, but I'll come to that a bit later on, because it's quite sort of relevant really. But I looked at him and thought, right, I can do that. We've got a good upper body, but legs, everything else. That's something I think I can do.
Sure.
And I got the guys at the time that were always CNP. Now there was a guy there who was working there called obviously it was run by Kerry Kays at the time, and the owner of the gym knew them well, so sort of took me just to help with some sort of initial posing and diet. And Kerry and John Hodgson took the time. Here's me, this sort of wet behind the ears 17-year-old, and they spent a huge amount of time with me, just going through my posing, did my sort of first contest diet.
Amazing.
They were absolutely brilliant. They just gave me so much time for nothing in return. And it was funny, I remember sort of John's words when I was starting my prep, and he was like, this is your first show is your Olympia, this is your Olympia. And it really stayed with me as a sort of comment, and it's so true, because it's like, right, you don't know what to expect. It's a complete unknown. And he took the time to show me how to pose, and even some of the things I remember him telling me then sort of stayed with me. Just the little things about leaning back, all the stuff around thinking of it from a judge's perspective.
Sure.
The importance of quad-toes pose and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, sort of fast forwarding through that. So those guys helped me with my sort of prep, and won my sort of qualifying. It was, like I say, it was the A and B at the time.
Was that the only natural federation at the time, Dan?
At the time, I think it was, yeah, because you had the EFBB and WABO, so there's a couple of the other non-tested shows, but yeah, the A and B, I think at the time was probably the only one. And this is all sort of pre-internet and everything else, so everything was, it would be getting a copy of like the
posters,
muscle, literally sort of 2 months after the event. It's like there was just nothing that was there from a social media or web perspective, so it was quite a small sort of community in that sense. So actually then went through, sort of competed, loads of guys came down from the gym and won the under 18s British, and it was just like completely, it was a real life-changing sort of moment of going, wow, this feeling is awesome. And it was like, it didn't matter that it was bodybuilding per se. It was like, right, I can look at the map of the UK and go, I'm the best at something I've decided to do. And that was the big sort of
awesome,
moment for me where I went, right, this is something that, I'll put the effort in, the discipline, I can apply that to anything sort of thing. So that sort of, was like, say, a real sort of standout moment. And then this is, I guess, probably one of the sort of the first mistakes, if you want. It was then, right, okay, I want to compete again as under 21, but the guys at the time there were some pretty big guys. I was like, right, I need to put some size on. And I went on that real bro science seafood type diet, and I literally ballooned. I think my head actually grew, and I actually peaked when I was 20 at just under 19 stone, which was just
epic.
Crazy. It was just crazy. I mean,
what was the eating like to get to that?
It was insane. I mean, it was. I can't even. Tracking had just gone. It was just literally eating everything. Just to like, it was eat tray. And don't get me wrong, I got really strong. I got pretty big, but then that was probably the worst diet I've ever had to go through, because I literally dropped, from sort of 19 stone. I was going down to, even for when I actually first competed, I was when I went into the under 20s, under 21, sorry, I probably dropped over 5.5 stone.
Oh my god!
I was still fat. I was still way off, for the actual contest. It's funny. I found some of the pictures actually, which I'll pop on social media. I found some when I was at under 18 and at the under 21, and it's good shape and everything, but I was just smooth as anything. So I had to then, really go nuts in terms of trying to sort of get to any sort of half decent condition. Ended up getting, I think, 4th in the UK at that point. It was pretty close between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But the guy who got first, whose name I sort of forget, was an absolute, it was an awesome physique, just completely sort of, hands down. And that was it was a good wake up call, that of, right, you took things for granted in terms of it was a real sledgehammer to cracking up type approach of just right, get as big as possible and then diet down and you'll be massive. It was just as simple as that in terms of the sort of logic that was applied. So that was a really good sort of learning point of, right, okay, perhaps shouldn't be getting that big in terms of the off season.
Yeah.
So then went to did uni, finished my degree at that point, so I took a couple of years off competing, started work on a graduate scheme to get my sort of my accountancy qualification. So during that period, it was like a case of just not competing, because the next step for me was then to go into the novices.
Sure.
Which I did in 2005 and competed in the WNBF.
Okay.
At that point, and it was going against, myself, Darren Vernon, and Brandon Greenwood were.
Okay.
So we did the qualifier together. Brandon won that. I got second. I think Darren got third, and then when we came to the British finals, Darren got second. Brandon won it. Darren got second, and I got third. But it was great. Again, the whole one of the aspects of competing that I love with the bodybuilding is that me and Darren became really close friends out of that. We were both sort of like back after a period. It's his sort of first show, and he was sort of a local guy, and
yeah.
Again, some of the friendships you build on this it's great. You know, you're competing against each other, but you're all going through it. And
Agreed.
I love that about the sport. So we got to that point. I was really happy with sort of place, and it was a nice sort of validation of, right, okay, I can still mix it up at this sort of level. I didn't quite, you know, I got this, you know, right, and I was sort of I was doing all my own, doing a lot of my own sort of prep at that point. And it's funny, I went to, I think it was during that prep, or maybe the next one, I went to see John Harris, who was doing some of the, you know, as a just to help with some of the sort of routine and some of the posing there. And I saw a picture on his wall because he's got his sort of training. He's got at the back of his house at the time. Great little gym that he built himself, which you know, took my heart to. And there's a picture of him on the wall, and I looked at that and went, that's the picture when I was under 18 that I saw of a guy who won the under 18.
Oh, no way.
That inspired me to actually go, you know what, I can compete with that. It was brilliant. It was like, even swing, it was the same, you know, it was the same person. I never took the name, it was just a picture of it. So, you know, there you go 8 years later, and it was like, you know, John was one of the guys that inspired me to compete with some of the, you know, when he won the under 18s the previous year. So it was quite a nice moment, really. Like I say, the small world that bodybuilding is.
Yeah.
So started with sort of 2005 and took the next sort of year off, then competed in the heavyweight step 2007. And I really, you know, again, this was pre-kids, so I was able to focus on it. Got myself into really good nick, and I won. I competed in the MPA that year, won the Northwest overall, which was like, again, it was one of those moments you go, wow, not only I won my class, and it was a tough class as well, some good guys in it. I won the overall, and it was just like, again, one of those sort of feelings you go, wow, this has really ignited a fire.
Yeah.
What it did though, it probably sent it to nuclear, and I became so focused on, right, I've won the overall, and rather than go, right, okay, what strategies, what approach worked, I almost went into this sort of single-mindedness in a really negative way. So literally finishing the show, going on holiday, I couldn't even break. I was doing double daily cardio, straight on the holiday. I was just, you know, obsessed, and it was, you know, training every single day with the weights. I barely let up anything in terms from a diet perspective, stayed lean the whole time. And it was an earlier qualifier in the year, and I ended up applying this sort of ridiculous training regime up to the finals in October, where I was actually training 3 times a day.
Oh my
cardio
God.
for half an hour in the morning. I know, it's crazy when I think back of it now. So I get up, go to the gym for 6:30, half an hour cardio, get into work, and then where I was at the airport at the time, there was a gym on site, and I was able to effectively, in my lunch hour, I could go and do probably 20 minutes HIIT, which I used to do on the rower. Do that, and then train with weights in the evening, and sometimes do cardio after that. I know, and I was probably at the time eating 2,900 calories a day, and then God knows what my expenditure was. But
super high.
Went in. I know, but it's funny. The physique change was, I was soft, I was flat, and I just looked rubbish. And rather than go, hang on, let's just rein this back and just reset this, I actually went further, and it was like, right, I'll diet harder, I'll do, you know, I went into the complete, and
see that a lot, to be honest.
It's this is the dangerous thing when you've got time, and it just became really negatively reinforcing, because again, I went, do more, better results, work harder, not smarter, better results, and just doing that as an approach, and come the finals, look rubbish, I think I even came 6th. In the finals after winning an overall was really poor, really. It was you know, it was one of those times where I was just like, wow, you know, literally just come off stage, and I was just sort of shell shocked, just like, right, okay, I've caught this up, messed this up, it's not, you know, and it was a real dent in the confidence. I
bet
at that time, because, you know, like I said, my validation was, you've worked really hard, therefore you should be at your best, and it just wasn't the case at all. But, you know, it's, like I say, hopefully this is sort of useful insight to some of the mistakes that you can easily make when, you know, you've got a career as sort of long as this, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
So that took me then to a point of, I was at a point in my sort of career from a personal life sort of perspective, I was getting married the year after, and it was, looking at sort of starting a family, and I had a few sort of niggles at that point. So I didn't really have a plan after that, to be honest. It did really, knock me for six in terms of, right, maybe this isn't something that, I should be competing at anymore at this sort of level. And I then went through a period of, I think it was 2008-9. I had some really, really, really bad back issues.
Oh, sure.
And had an MRI scan, and I had effectively degenerative discs in my lower three, L4, L5 spine, which most people have got. There's nothing that's that serious.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Isn't anything. It's like, it sounds a lot worse than it is. And you see from the scan, it's like, right, you've got these really thin black discs where they're supposed to be, a little bit spongy and white and full of fluid. But it wasn't the issue. It was I actually had a slight burst on the disc, which was impinging and pressing onto the nerve.
Right,
so
I see.
I would literally, if I was deadlifting 135 pounds, it could be agony. So I had quite a few sort of cortisone injections, more MRI scans, and it was a little bit break fix. But the cortisone injection, go, oh great, I'm fine. And then after a few months, when it sort of worn off, it was like, no, I'm in agony again. And it wasn't a cycle I wanted to get into, just because of all the other associated impacts that you can have from sort of cortisone. And I didn't want to be dependent.
Yes.
So I had a chat with my neurologist at the time, and he sort of gave me the options of going, right, you can have surgery, we can fuse your spine, but there's 50-50 chance it'll work. There's 5% chance of pretty severe complications around bladder, kidneys, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, right, these odds do not sound great. I think I'll take the other option, which was, you might get lucky and it could just fuse itself, just grinds itself in over time.
Yeah.
So had first child 2010, next in 2012. So it was all around this sort of period, still training, but not competing. Like I said, not able to deadlift, not able to squat, but able to train around it, work around it. So still going to the gym sort of 4 or 5 times a week. Then it was a weird moment of overnight. I sort of remember sort of waking up and going, my back feels all right, I feel fine. And I started to squat, felt okay. Started to sumo deadlift because I found that didn't aggravate it. And as I built my core up, actually, I was like, right, you know what, I'm feeling pretty good. And within the space of not being able to deadlift at all, I was, over 400 pounds in, sort of 12 months. So it was a massive sort of, change of going, actually, I feel in a pretty good place here. I'm back to squatting 4 plates aside. But then I started to push numbers close to, the sort of 220 kilo mark. And it was, I'm starting to grow, starting to feel good about myself. And it was, kids were at a point a little bit older that I thought, actually, I feel that I could compete again. Maybe I'll give this a go. And it was quite a big, I was quite nervous about it after, from winning overall to then going to pretty much not placing at a British final. It was like, right, can I really mix this up?
Yeah.
It is something that I had to sort of go, no, let's, I went to a few of the shows, looked at the standard and thought, right, let's give this a go. So did the Mike Williams in 2014 and won my class in that. I think I got second in the overall to Charlie in that one, who looked awesome. But that was right. I've won my class. I'm okay to compete at this level.
Yep.
Went to the finals, which was a few weeks later. Got third in that. It's behind sort of Paul Robertson and Wayne Robb, who were phenomenal. And that was and there was about 6 other sort of guys, and it was like, right, I can mix this up at this standard again now. It was a massive sort of confidence boost to me.
Sure.
We've still got something to prove in this. So I kept quite lean then from that, and went into the 2015 season with the view of, right, I'm going to go for the Yorkshire to compete in Europe. So in doing that, I was able to stay lean, and I got probably one of the best conditions that I've done for many, many years. That 2015, I took a really slow diet, no excessive cardio, and came in full, really tight, won my class, won the overall, and then got the invite over to compete in Europe, which was my sort of aim for for that as a year, which was great. Got second in the Europeans. Took the rest of the year off then because it was like that was the aim.
Yeah.
And from that sort of period, then went into the 2016 season with a view of going for the British. From a personal perspective, that was quite a tough time because my mum got diagnosed with lung cancer probably the back end of 2015.
Yeah.
So I was going into the 2016 prep, and she lived over in Ireland, so it was just back and forth there quite a lot.
Yeah.
Still in a position of sort of dieting and actually competing, it gave you something to focus on.
Yeah, for sure.
It gave you that discipline, that sort of rigor. And I didn't think it was affecting me too much, but unfortunately, she passed just probably about. It was a week before the UKDFBA, which I was going to compete in, and then 2 weeks before the MPA. Had a chat with Lee, and he was brilliant, and just pulled out sort of the UKDFBA one, and I was still in reasonable shape, and thought, right, I'm going to do the MPA one. I've got this far in terms of the diet. Let's just see. And it may have been a mistake to do that because that was probably one of the worst placings. That again, outside of that British one, I just went onto stage and I just didn't have the same mentality. I just didn't have that sort of hunger for it. You could just see, where you thought, no, I'm all right. It was clear on the day.
Yeah.
And I didn't look particularly great, and I think I came fifth in the end on that as a qualifier. But there was some real, there was Dan Mutcher, there was Don, Nick Adams, Solomon. There was some really good guys in that. And it was like one of those moments that I remember coming off and going, right, this is a qualifier. You just literally scraped into the finals here, probably by virtue of how strong that lineup was in terms of other guys and placing because normally fifth, you ain't going to the British.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like you say, those moments. And I remember I had some stuff to sort out in Ireland, and so I went over, and I remember probably went for about an 8-mile walk around the sort of Giants, causeway. And then came back and had one of the best leg workouts I've ever sort of had. There's a gym near to where I was staying in Ireland, and it's almost like, right, I am going for this to the British. I can do better than this, and I got that sort of inner strength from it, and I just hunkered down. And I don't think I did anything radical training or diet wise. It was just a total shift in mindset. And then came to that sort of British in 2016, and then got third and it was Sam first, then Dan, and then myself. And it was great to obviously beat the guys that had given me a good kick in a couple of weeks sort of prior to that. But it was just that validation of self of going again, right? No, I am focused on this. This is happening. That sort of transference into other aspects of your life is what I really, really love about the bodybuilding, side of things. That mindset and applied to different areas, whether it's studying, whether it's your career, is so powerful. And I think Ian and he put a post on Facebook the other week, and it was really true about he's someone who's got PhD, that same sort of principle and mindset applied is such a productive, powerful force to use. And that's something that when you talk to people outside the sport that don't know it, and what I found particularly even in the sort of careers that I've had professionally, the respect that you get when you educate them a little bit around the sport is huge. And actually you're just some weird guy that likes to get tanned up in smaller shorts evaporates pretty quickly when they realise the discipline of this is what I eat every day, this is how I track it, this is me training, and people realise pretty quickly I can't do that.
For sure.
And then they see that applied into other aspects of how you work, how you your target outcome sort of focused is massive. It really does generate that respect I found, which is great because like I say, I've been quite open, and even when I sort of recently switched jobs, I was very open about the fact I was a bodybuilder, and it was one of those ones that I did debate with myself, right, how much am I going to talk about this? because it is such an odd, whatever you want to call it, it is an odd sport.
It is, yeah.
Outside of it, when they see that, they know a bit about it, but not very much. And the people I talked to were really interested in it. It was like, wow, that's amazing. You do that to that level, as well as having a family, everything else. Wow, that's a huge amount of respect. And I think especially as part of what all of us are ambassadors to an extent of it. When people see that, the vast majority of people have got gym memberships and aspire to being right, fit, healthy, should go that. When they see someone who's living it, totally disciplined to it, I've by and large had really positive sort of comments back from it, and people quite interested in how they're sort of transference into how you sort of live your day-to-day life, because it is a life, it's a lifestyle.
100%, yeah.
And so there's gone off a bit of a tangent there, but that's because obviously people see me change in terms of from, not that particularly the last sort of 2-3 years, I don't tend to go much more than probably 14 pounds tops over sort of contest weight, which was part of my sort of strategy. That look, I didn't see myself being able to put on huge amounts of lean tissue if I was going to compete so often at the training age that I've got.
Yeah.
What I can do though is come in razor sharp, full, and that's my differentiator against some of the guys that I'm competing with that are naturally bigger
100%
than me.
Yeah.
So again, that sort of transition of when you start to really get into grey diet phase, people understand it and get it as well, because it can be quite alarming to people. They get quite concerned, particularly when that sort of final throes, and because you've seen yourself go through it, you don't register it as such, but you can really see your cheek roads are starting to protrude out. You're almost sort of getting to the point of getting striations on your ears and stuff like that. It's like, right, okay, this guy's looking quite ill, we need to feed him. So that took me to sort of 2016, and then for 2017, where I was from a personal perspective and from how I felt physically, it was a case of going, right, this is the year I am going to go all out and throw everything in to effectively achieve the most I can. And then, ironically, the goal that I set myself was the one I didn't actually achieve, which was I wanted to get a British title.
Okay.
And obviously seeing Sam move up and get his pro card made it more open in the heavyweight area than it had been, because obviously Sam is just an unbelievable sort of competitor, so quite grateful for him moving up and out of the amateurs into the pros, to be quite honest. And it was, again, I probably went up to, my off season I went to probably about 205, 206 pounds, which are my heaviest, and I started to diet from end of Feb, beginning of March, and I took the view of, again, I want to come in really slow. It's a really slow diet, I want to be over 3,000 calories for the vast majority of it, and minimal cardio, keeping the strength. That was my sort of objectives at the start of the prep. If not gaining strength on some exercises.
Yeah, sure.
Right, I'm taking that mindset. So everything was very clearly programmed out, clear training blocks, clear deloads that matched points throughout the year. So in February time, I had a complete end-to-end of this is how my year is going to be.
Brilliant.
When I'm going to compete, which is the MPA and the UK DFBA shows, with a view to winning British title, to just get onto the team to go over to the US. That was my objective, really. And the prep went really well. Strength was good. I was able to get my saying I was going to do cardio once a week. So so over 6-day split, and it was, and then doing probably one hit session a week. Just enjoyed it. Actually. Cat was pretty high. Came in and shows competed then. First one I think was the UK DFBA, where we sort of caught up, and the Northern one, which is great. So getting the class and the overall there, and then effectively again didn't do anything too crazy. I used the different shows that I had just to tweak little things, like, right, okay, let's just try a bit of a higher carb up. What did that do if I chucked in 3 days of going 500 grams of carbs, which is quite high for me. For my sort of prep, 'cause I'm normally in the sort of 275, 300 type.
Yeah.
And it was great to be able to play with those variables and go, right, was I fuller, was I not? And I almost was just doing lots of mini sort of show rehearsals throughout, because I got myself into the condition I needed to, and it was just playing with such small variables.
Sure.
So that was great. Got did the UKDFBA, went over then with David Old and Lee and Amy to the Danish Open, which was brilliant. And these are the times of the sport that I love. The sport is the bonding that you have when you go on some of the overseas trips in particular. It's just awesome. You get to know each other on a different level, and it's just great times that you can have. We had a brilliant time over in Denmark, missing our luggage for 3 days, having to borrow posing trunks and borrowing and stealing to get sort of tanned up. But, another version of it, I would have been quite stressed out with that, but it was just totally like, look, it is what it is, we'll get it sorted. And so it was everyone sort of chipped in and helped each other out, and so that was great. Won my class there. Then I think at the end the MPA, my lunch again where I won class, and then the overall there, and then actually into the Brit instead. And it was funny, I remember seeing pictures of Dan at the qualifying, thinking, wow, he looks enormous.
Yeah.
Dan, big Dan Butcher, and thinking, I just hope he just keeps eating a lot of food between the British, but unfortunately he didn't. And he came in really good shape for the British. It was quite fun, sort of backstage, and obviously, was competing, just having a bit of a laugh with each other. And it was like, yeah, you've really sharpened up in the last 3 weeks. And it was sort of, I be up in terms of going, you know the condition too. And he got the class there in the overall, which was great result. He looked phenomenal. Got second to him here and there, but secured the invite because the weight I was just in a light heavyweight.
I see.
Which obviously for the UK shows we just lightweight, middle, heavyweight.
Yeah.
For the Worlds, I was literally half a pound under the weight, so it was a perfect class for me, the light heavyweight, with my sort of shape and just general size. So
yes.
Sort of believe about that, and it was, look, this is a class that you can do really well in the World. So I was just over the moon to get the invite to that. Then did the MPA finals, and that was one again how you sort of you get fueled this stuff. It was another good old battle to me and Nick, and it'd been 20 years to the day that I'd won my under 18, so it was I had it in my head. That's the one I wanted to, I really wanted it this year. So obviously, it was really disappointed not to have that, and it was one of those moments where it was coming back going, right, okay, you got the World in sort of 3 weeks time, and it was one of those ones where you couldn't sleep. I was in the gym at sort of 5 in the morning, but it was one of those sort of reset set workouts of going, right, nailed it, smashed myself, and then it was like, right, it's all about the Worlds.
Yeah.
Like, forget it, move on. Let's go and focus on that. And again, with the margins, you just don't know, but I just felt differently. It was almost like, when you're in a deep, dark pit of prep, you're knackered, you're tired, you've done 5 competitions in 6 weeks. It was it really helped in that sense. It just gave me that added fuel of, right.
Yeah, I can relate, yeah.
It's, absolutely, you just go, right, I'm up for this. And had a really good into the Worlds, and it was, again, had the chance just to, because I was in shape, to play with variables, and come the actual, day, going out with the team, yourself, all the guys that we met, it's hard to sort of describe, but that is what I compete for. As much
100%.
as the mental side,
yeah.
Sort of that validation, actually going out as a team and spending time together as a group. I mean, you've probably competed against each other, but you've all gone through this journey. Sort of level of mutual respect, and the atmosphere was just brilliant. It's just you can't describe it. It's just something that anyone who's competing this year, have that focus on that team. It's like an experience like no other.
Yeah, agreed.
Just being over with the guys at the States was just awesome. And it's funny. It's like even Ian, who was in the master sort of competing then, we competed 10 years early together. Haven't spoken for 10 years, but it was just like picking up, where we left off. Like, he beat me in heavyweights in 2007 in the WNBF.
Wow.
Qualifier in Scotland, but it was brilliant. That sort of stuff where you just sort of picking up with old sort of friends, and the whole trip was just amazing. And getting, I remember, like you say, we were all sort of backstage, weren't we? You're looking at it and going, wow, the British team is seriously strong here. We've got great teams and some conditions. If it just stood out from the pros, amateurs, we had this aura, I felt like, around us. Everyone was, building each other up. It was phenomenal. In all classes. So competing in that, obviously winning, it was a long day. Winning my it was great. It was just little snapshots of stuff coming off, and David and Tom Hicks were there, just like giving them a sort of like hug, and then going, oh crap, I've got to go on for the overall. I'm like, it's not trying to start with the tap and everything, and it was one of those sort of surreal moments, because I not even thought about the overall. I hadn't even considered it for. It was all about I'm winning my class.
Yeah.
Like, right, you got the overall in like 2 minutes. It was like, wow, this is awesome, but I haven't even thought about it. And, I remember just standing at the side, and I remember just thinking, almost, it was a bit of a surreal moment, just like looking up and just almost having a little chat with myself, and I think I had a chat with me when we even go, right, okay, here we go, and just then it was almost, because of the way it sort of prepped around practicing sort of posing the routine, it was going, right, I'm doing this under exam conditions that I'm actually, if I got 7 call outs back to back, that was my sort of like, because I didn't do too much cardio, but that was what I did in terms of that sort of prep. So going on and then doing that final bit was automatic pilot. I knew how I was going to turn, where I was putting my hands. I practiced holding poses for 30 seconds. I remember me and you and chatting with sort of Damien going, look, we're going to work you hard in these bits, and going, right, that's how I'm preparing for these. So you might get multiple odd transitions, so it might be, it's not going to be quarter turns and then your front double, your flat, you could be arse and thigh, then rear delt, then a quarter turn, so it was all those sort of things that can throw you. That's what I prepped for. And it's funny, I watched the video of it a couple of weeks ago, and I think the thing that probably helped clinch it, because it was really close between me and Finn, who in the middleweights, was phenomenal. When I look at the overall, was the condition, just that little bit, tighter from the rear in particular. His upper body was tremendous, but the poses, I didn't move. It was like a statue. And you see the other guys that do it a little bit more jittery or moving a little bit more. Being on the stage definitely helped, just by virtue of where I'm sort of called out, but not having that prep and doing that extra bit of the posing, it made such a difference. I'm convinced of it. It's those little margins that I sort of look back now and go, right, I was on the right side for me from that sort of decision, but just all those bits of variables that can have, right, so posing was nailed. I had that, and that confidence then comes out on stage. You can see it when, I'll try and pop it on, bits of it on the sort of social media, but I'm convinced, that makes a sort of slight difference around it. And I think, the key thing, and I know you do it with the guys that you're prepping and stuff, that not neglecting that part of the show preparation.
100%.
That's the bit where you can move yourself so many places by just having that control, that coordination, that confidence exudes on stage. You have the best physique in the world. If you can't display it, you're going to get beat. And that's the bit I had to sort of play to those strengths, because I'm never going to be the biggest heavyweight, but I know I can get into great condition. I know I can poke well, so I'll focus on those areas. So absolutely nailed on it. So that's my sort of 20 years, I guess, in terms of from a competitive perspective, to obviously winning that, to then going, right, great, I've got a pro card, which again, like I said, ironically wasn't my aim. It was to get that British title and get the invite.
Yeah.
To this year, I said, just switched jobs, having the year up to actually put some size on. 4 years of competing, I've never had, and because of how I prep, I've never had a prolonged off season for more than a few months, and just want to have that time of getting, a good sort of 5-6 good training blocks in with some specific goals that just, lift some reasonable weights and get that sort of, controlled growth of sort of lean tissue and just what I can look like then with a view to getting the pros probably 2019.
Yeah.
And my sort of stint back then.
Yeah, I mean, mate, Dan, like, like, people can just learn a lot by, like, listening to that career span and learning that, it's not just about, your first competition. Because I think a lot of people, when they get into bodybuilding initially, especially if they follow potentially people like us that are very sort of, we really want to win and we really want to achieve and things like this, like, we probably both entered our first shows, and in the way that we entered our first shows was probably just like, okay, this is bodybuilding, let's see if we like it. And because we entered with that approach, I think that's why, obviously you've had a much longer career than me, but nevertheless, my competitive seasons, which are 3 in total so far, have all been progressively getting to a point where I'm now like, okay, I really, really want this specific achievement, as opposed to just feeling like, okay, I actually like training with weights, let's see if I like competing. And what I'm trying to touch on is I think a lot of people nowadays potentially just go into it with the mindset of, okay, I just need to win my first show, or I'm not going to compete until I can win. The reality is, I think, and what you've shown is that getting your feet wet and doing shows is probably one of the best ways to learn, make mistakes, and then move forwards. One of the things that I did have to ask you is that you touched on it a little bit with sort of like your dietary carb intake and things like that. Is people are very interested in the diet and how people change their diets over the years, and I'm sure that you've learned a lot. So, over the sort of the years where you were more educated, so the years which weren't sort of just completely all over the place, what have you sort of learned works for you diet wise in terms of macronutrient setup and things like that?
And no, it's a great question. I think early on it was very much it's 1.5 protein per pound of body weight. That's the standard. That's what you hit, in terms of that. And then it was very, quite heavy on carbs, quite low on fat. As a general sort of, rule, when I was competing probably in those earlier shows, that I would tend to reduce fat quite significantly, keep protein in that sort of range, really. Again, from a sort of, just from a fullness perspective, just keep, satiated, really. The highest protein, again, particularly when I probably had more free time when I was in my sort of, in the shows I was competing in the 2000s. You're naturally more focused because you've got more time to think about it. It's not getting busier, it actually helps. I always say to people, when you're sort of competing, find a shed load of stuff you need to do that's almost like a sort of steady state cardio. Put that shelf, do that painting, whatever it is. It just takes your mind off it and, actually keeps you going. But as for the more recent competitions, I probably increased my fats a bit more and reduced my carb down.
Interesting.
I didn't feel that made any difference negatively to me from a fullness perspective. Still getting really good pumps, and from a how I felt joint wise, everything else, I felt much better. So probably keeping a ratio of, it would vary around, depending on how it sort of work, probably sort of 40% sort of protein, 35% sort of carbs, and then a 25% fat. And I would just play with those sort of variables, really, depending on how I felt. So if actually over the couple of weeks I was going, I'm doing a bit flat, I'm not getting quite the same intensity, I would double up my carbs and have a bit of a refeed, reduce down. And I had a lot of time to do my prep. I had the opportunity to do different things. So I didn't have to go, I've got to get lean, because I was already pretty lean at the sort of outset. I mean, I was, only probably, even months before, probably only about 5 pounds above where I needed to be. So it allowed me to really get into tight condition. I'm still squatting, nearly 200 kilos. I'm still deadlifting sort of 240.
Awesome.
Keeping my strength up. And that was a big indicator for me to go, right, I need to keep my strength up, keep my muscle size, right, that's my most objective, so I've got to grind through. Then, right, I'm starting to feel a beat up. Yeah, I'm not afraid to have a deload at a point, and even during sort of prep, whereas previously I never would have done that.
Yeah.
It was always that, no, must train hard. And it was training much smarter now. And so it's quite a long sort of answer to your question, but I guess I was playing around those different variables. I would tend to have found, because I was doing a master's at the same time, and which sort of accumulated last year, so I was doing my sort of dissertation, having a higher protein and fat at the start of the day, throughout the day, I felt better mentally, less hungry, and then I would have my carbs around my training, which tended to be in the evening.
Yeah.
And that helped to make me sleep better.
Yeah.
And that was a very simplistic way, but I found it worked quite well for me. I'm not, one way or the other, I've read a load of different articles advocating, keto, higher carbs. I just think you've got to find your own way a little bit in terms of what feels good for you. Are you mentally, how do you feel sluggish? Can you have carbs before training and not feel tired? And just, you've got to play with those things, I think, really. But it worked quite well for me. So it's almost like probably highest protein, because it was definitely in that minimum 1.5 pound per body weight. But then just playing with the fats and carbs, really. But as a principle, it was fats at the start of the day, carbs to the end of the day as well. Because also that's when I was hungry.
Yeah.
All time. So I come home from the gym, it's like, right, I don't want to go to bed hungry. Great, I can have, a load of caramel snacker jacks with whatever my last sort of protein meal is, and I actually feel pretty normal, or an options hot chocolate, whatever it might be. They're just those little things that you
sure, man.
Go, right, I'm actually that's fine, and that means I'm going to hopefully sleep more than 4 or 5 hours towards the end of the prep to be the norm, really.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah.
And diet wise, obviously, have you had a coach for your first prep? Have all your other preps been done by yourself?
Pretty much so. I mean, I said John helped with some of my posing, which was great, just a bit of a refresher during the sort of mid 2000s, and that investment of getting someone who I considered a great poser, again, brilliant, because it's the little things that just again stay with me in terms of when you're doing your quarter turns, lifting your arm, it's almost like, right, you get drawn to the judges, try and hit your pose first and be last in it. Just those little subtleties that can just, again, bump you 1 or 2 places. So not ignoring those sort of details, I think is really important, particularly on the posing side. But then from a diet perspective, pretty much done the prep myself.
Sure.
Did a lot of research. This is the great thing with social media now. The stuff I think is brilliant that that you're putting out there for people to read and look at and learn from is awesome. And the things that I didn't have at the start of my career that are available now, the toolboxes are there. It's just making sure people get the right tools and just can differentiate between, right, it's a bit of a sort of sweet shop. There's so much stuff around, this is the best program, this is that. And I can imagine for someone coming in new or relatively untrained, it's really quite overwhelming. It's almost the opposite problem of what I had from having very
too much.
Flex once a month of it's 4 sets of 10, and 15 to 20 exercises, and you do a chest one day, legs the other sort of thing. It was a real sort of bro split to now where it's like, oh, am I keto? Am I high carb? Am I training to volume? And it's just, the stuff that yourself put out, the 3DMJ guys, and there's a lot of really good stuff, but I probably take for granted I've got a lot of training experience, but I imagine for the newbie coming in, it is quite difficult to go, well, are they good, are they not good? So, I think, like I say, the stuff that you're putting out there is brilliant, and
thanks, mate.
Keep doing that in terms of that education to guys, because it makes such a difference. I've got a young guy at the moment I'm sort of helping out, and it's really interesting sort of talking to him how he's been quite overwhelmed with all of the sort of he's sort of mid-20s, he's got a couple of years under his belt. So, I'm having a couple of sessions with him, just trying to give him some pointers, but it's so clear that the information overload is huge. So getting a good coach early that's got the pedigree is such a good investment, as opposed to, right, I've just gone and spent 50 quid on protein powder X, so I'm going to get huge. And that's something that, again, it's that almost instant gratification that people want when you've got so much of this sort of push through going, look, chest, abs, arms within X number of weeks, take these supplements. It's just coming back to going, right, simply get your training right, get a good coach that can help you with that programming, and the gains you'll have will far outweigh any magic bullet that that has been sort of and that's something, again, I'm saying that because I went through that where I remember when creatine first came out, it was like, oh my god, then it was glutamine, it was HMB, and these are the things that are going to make you enormous, as opposed to going right, just consistent hard training, well programmed. Is the answer to it, really.
Yeah, and thank you for the kind words on the content, Dan. I think that what we try to do is just put out as much stuff as we can to try and simplify this thing, because a lot of the things that come out nowadays, especially amongst the scientific realm of the research and the high echelons of people that are really putting in the hours in the labs and things like that, it's all well and good, but at the same time I think anecdotal experience and just getting in and training hard would serve a lot of people a whole world of good, rather than just spending so much time trying to make everything quote unquote optimal, because quote unquote optimal in a study is like it's very hard to determine what that is.
I think, again, from going through having to do my sort of masters, what you're doing I was doing a lot of research on stuff that's outside of bodybuilding. It was on executive management, so there's a whole host of different studies. That sort of rekindled a bit of an appetite to learn again. So seeing a lot of the studies and stuff that are put out, from the body perspective. But it's interesting, it's not taking things as a given, like you just said, that, okay, right, we did this test with 10 untrained individuals where we did a leg extension for 10 reps on this for a week versus someone who did 8, and we found this. And you're like, wow, you've got so many variables at play here that all of this stuff can't always be right, and it also isn't wrong at the same time. It's like,
tell me about it.
You know what? Simple progressive overload in a proper periodised way. That means that yes, you can't just add a donut to the squat every time. Otherwise, we're all squatting 1,000 pounds. In a matter of weeks. You just put it on and somebody can work it out. It just doesn't happen. Realising that you've got to have that intelligence around proper periodisation, like you say, rep ranges that work within range that seem pretty generally well sort of tested, and experimenting what works for you, and the consistency, I think, comes from not only getting into the gym, the tracking, but it's being really honest with yourself. So right, how am I looking? I've put on 5 pounds. Was it 5 pound good? Was it 5 pound bad? What does my body fat look like? Yes, I might have the scales that sort of say it's this, but what does the mirror tell me? Right, am I in contest shape or not? And it's when you might look back after training block and gone, awesome, I was starting at theoretical 1 rep max of 220 kilo squat. I'm now at 230. And I feel differently. I think you get more experience and more aware, and this is where a good coach can really help, particularly some of the younger guys. When I say younger, in terms of lack of training years, it makes a huge difference, because your first 2-3 years of training, the gains you can make are absolutely phenomenal, and that's pretty quick. In terms of it, even though people want things instantly, that is really quick in the context of life. To transform your physique in a matter of months is awesome. And I'd say it's just for guys that are seeing this, just taking that step back and going, right, am I setting all these other things up optimally? Do I have I invested in my training? Can I tell what my next block's going to be? I'm not just turning up to the gym and just going, right, I'm just going to go and lift until I'm exhausted. That's training hard, not smart, and that's the difference. Yeah,
100%, totally agreed. And I think one more last thing that I personally like to touch on is a lot of people are obviously in the stage now where they're starting their own preps and they're setting out their season. I'd just like to sort of get your opinion as to where you personally see, and obviously we mentioned, and obviously we're big advocates of the UK DFBA. We love the work that Amy and Lee put in, and obviously you getting to know them a little bit more when you went to Denmark, me getting to know them a little bit more when we went to Boston. I know the amount of hours and time that they put into the federation. So from your perspective, if someone was looking to obviously compete this year, we know there's sort of 3 main federations in the UK, and they're all great. They have their own attributes. But what would you say, because the UK DFBA has given so much to us, what would you say is the reason why people should compete with the UK DFBA and look to do one of their shows this year?
time and effort that goes into running all the federations is phenomenal across the board. That's just a given. The
Agree.
level of effort and commitment is just huge. It's something put in. I mean, seeing it sort of firsthand quite intimately, what me and Amy do behind the scenes is just incredible. The amount of questions and emails and everything they're getting, and like that. I said at the start that everyone's first show is their Olympia, and you imagine you might have 300 people that are just in that, because it is a selfish sport at times. It can be very, very selfish. It's just being self-aware in terms of the impact you have. So everyone sees it as, right, I'm the most important, and those guys having to sort of manage that, and not only that, the logistics around getting the shows on, everything else, and those shows have been phenomenal. They ran like clockwork. You felt so informed from an athlete perspective. All this sort of stress that you can have, sort of taken away, really clear instructions, and the opportunity, I think, for me is not only to be part of that as a federation and also association, and the people that you meet, some of the friendships that we've got out of the different competitions we've had, and you're going, it's the same in any federation, don't get me wrong, but there's people that I can just pick up the phone to 6 months' time and have a chat with. The friends that obviously we've had out from not knowing each other a year ago. That's that atmosphere is definitely created and is really strong there. It's got that absolute feel about it that you're all there to compete, but it's that right balance between competition, mutual respect, and the whole sort of you're in it together,
100%.
That sort of thing. And that mix is difficult to articulate, but it's got that. And when we all went over to the US, even though we didn't know each other across the board, within hours, minutes, you feel like you're a team. You're a unit. We're all meeting down in the foyer. You meet people for the first time, but it's like meeting with old friends. I mean, we were out to the sort of the last day, and I was out to the sort of Cheesecake Factory. You would not think that these people just come together sort of 2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
And that's pretty special to create that sort of feeling. Some of the memories I've got from that trip will stay with me forever.
100%.
And some of the friendships I've made are the same. And I think doing that and have the opportunity to compete in the US, I mean, over in LA this year at Muscle Beach, I mean, it's life-changing type stuff. It really is. So, I guess my advice for guys sort of prepping now is be ready. Wherever you think you're going to be ready, add at least 2, 3, 4 weeks before, because I've never heard anyone come to a prep and gone, I was ready so far. It's always, if I had another week or if I had another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Put that in your plan now and pull it back. Now, obviously with a coach, it's great because you've got that critical eye. Anyone who's not doing that approach, give yourself 4 weeks before you thought you were going to be ready. I always say be ready 2 weeks before the show, but then add that 4 weeks. You won't regret it, in terms of being able to glide into something, as opposed to having to come in at pace and, land it. It's much better just to sort of glide in.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be ready early. That's one of the things that
Absolutely.
I look at my prep and I think, what could I have done better? And I think, if I'd got ready a bit earlier, I'd have been able to work up my calories even more and learn even more about my body.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I'll certainly take into future preps, because like you in one of your earlier 20-year-old preps, I probably started a little bit too heavy, looking back on things, but that's what we do and what we learn through the process. So man, this has been awesome. This is like a good hour of superb content that people can take away, and I'm sure that people have learnt a hell of a lot more about you and probably want to follow your journey like a little bit more, obviously, with what you do in the future. So where is it that namely people can sort of keep up to date with you, and do you post online anywhere at the moment? Are you trying to get into it a little bit more?
I think more now, particularly just from a Facebook, Instagram perspective. I'm supposed to hold myself to account, putting more stuff around my workouts and stuff like that. Particularly around sort of the training blocks that I'm doing. I'll be starting to put sort of more stuff out there.
Cool.
Again, just from a time perspective, with kids, quite busy sort of professional career. I'll be honest, it's not something that I use particularly heavy for myself. Probably more of a voyeur. I take what I need from it in terms of stuff. There's a lot of great content that's out there. So yeah, you can just get me. It's just Dan Lampard on Facebook. Same for Instagram. Pretty straightforward. But I'll be putting more of my sort of training. I'll be doing that, and then certainly as I go into my sort of prep later this year, there'll be certainly more stuff I'll be putting on there. Again, I suppose hold myself to account.
Cool.
As well, really.
And you mentioned helping that sort of the young 20-year-old in the gym. Is that something that you maybe want to get into in the future? Like, would you see yourself like helping anyone with diets or things like that in the future? Does that ever interest you?
It absolutely does. It comes from a time and what I can do.
Yeah.
And from a sort of career perspective, as like I say, I've got a sort of separate career that is quite demanding outside of sort of bodybuilding, and balancing that. What I try and do in the same way, like I go back to some of the guys that helped me, and I've sort of name checked already, but John Hodgson, what he did for me then, and it was really nice to be able to drop him a note after years to say, look, that little, spotty kid that you saw 20 years ago, got my pro card, got world champion, and some of the things that you did for me then absolutely put me on that path, and being able to do that again for some of the guys that are younger, having those conversations, even just some of the bigger mistakes that I've made, helping with that. And like you said, I think you nailed it really well, is that people want to win their first show, otherwise I think that defines them. It was great just sort of getting to know Damien a bit more, and you talk to him, and the amount of thirds, seconds, fourths and stuff like that, you just see world champion, nearly got the overall sort of pro, in his sort of class this year, but he's been through that same journey of there's so many sort of, I won't even call them setbacks, they're points in your career that then can define you. You can either go, right, I'm crap at that and stop, or you can go, no, actually, this is something that I'm going to use that as fuel in a positive way. I'm going to learn from mistakes and do that application, not just in bodybuilding, but to anything you do in your career, personal life, I think is so important. And bodybuilding's a brilliant vehicle for that.
Yeah.
Like I say, when I look at the times where you're dented, but when you come back from that adversity, and treating those early shows as a learning. So you might have got fourth, fifth, it doesn't matter. Learn from it, apply it, and if you get third or second the next time around, awesome. Even if you don't, just that consistency and intelligent application will pay off. And I think that's so important for guys in this sort of day and age. So yeah, when it comes to come back to sort of original question, when it comes to helping people, by all means, where I can. I'm more than happy to sort of give that advice and put people on that track. Or actually, I'll put them in the direction of people like yourself.
Thank you.
You're going to learn so much from these guys, and that's a good example that the guy that sort of talked to you there said, right, go and look at AJ stuff, learn, similar sort of age. You can see this is what it looks like, and then that'll help you decide whether that's something you really want to pursue.
100%.
It's almost like very easy to say, but then actually when it comes to the application of consistently training hard, eating right, day in, day out, there's a lot that fall by the wayside. And that's the bit that, you've got to see. I've got to see that spark and fire in people to then invest more. So it's almost like giving a little bit, and then, give more. So, for sure. I enjoy helping people in that sense, but I couldn't dedicate the amount of time like, yourself and some of the guys do to it.
Sure. Well, awesome, Dan. So thank you very much for sort of giving up a little bit of time today. I know that you're a busy guy and you got little ones to look after, so I'll let you get back to all of that jazz. But for anyone that listened, thank you very much for listening and tuning in. I'm sure that Dan appreciates it as well. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them away. If we'll have this on YouTube, so whack them in the YouTube comments below. Give the video a like if you liked it, and if you can tag us both in your Instagram stories and share that you listened to it and whether you liked it, that'd be awesome too. And I'm sure Dan will field any questions that you particularly have for him. Just shoot him on Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, cheers guys, and cheers Dan. Thanks very much for your time, mate. And we will chat soon, I'm sure. Cool.
Take it easy.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.